Hello, so this is my presentation, War Beyond the Battlefield, British versus Civilians. This is PSA, Primary Source Analysis. My name is Adira Walker for Professor Mondragon, U.S. History to 1877. So just a little background, the British government sent soldiers to Boston in 1768 to help enforce the new acts and prevent resistance. On March 5th, 1775, unarmed Boston civilians were killed for harassing British soldiers, and the soldiers were found acquitted from the charges, meaning they were not charged. They kind of, acquitted. This also sparked outrage for that, and through Paul Reveal's spread of resistance through his drawing The Bloody Massacre, so we could see that right here. How it is showing the British soldiers basically executing these men. Benjamin Franklin introduced... Okay, so let's rewind this. Benjamin Franklin, when Paul Revere dropped the drawing of the Bloody Massacre, it was spreading really quickly, and for one of my quotes, I put Benjamin Franklin introduced a revolutionary postal system where night riders cut the delivery time in half. So that was the quote off of the YouTube video in the required videos of our section to watch. And I thought that was very crazy because I didn't really know that Benjamin Franklin did that. So it was pretty cool. And then, so I also used the quote, well, this is Boston resistance led to the repeal of the taxes except for tea. So they had repelled all the taxes except for tea. So then the other quote, this later led to the Boston Tea Party, where rebels dumped over $1 million worth of tea in the Boston Harbor. So that is also, this is from that YouTube video that we watched as well, The Early Settlers Fight for Freedom. So that was just really crazy to know that it was $1 million worth. I didn't know it was that much, so it was good. So primary source number 1, I picked an account of a late military massacre at Boston. So the type of primary source is a newspaper article. Audience: Boston civilians. Tone: emotional, angry, and accusatory. And the purpose was to fuel British hatred among the civilians / spread awareness of what was happening. Summary: depicts the Boston Massacre as a tragic act of British oppression by stationing troops in peacetime for control, not aiding civil peacetime. So basically just saying, okay, we're in peacetime. Why are they here? What are they doing? So yes. So for the 3 quote analysis for the primary source, I thought these quotes really cultivated the whole session. So, destructive consequences of quartering troops among citizens in time of peace under pretense of supporting the laws and aiding civil authority. So the significance of this was portrays the British government making a mistake by sending troops there under false pretenses. So basically saying, okay, you're supposed to be here during pre-time to help aid, but you're actually killing civilians. Second quote, what shewed a degree of cruelty unknown to British troops. Significance of this: condemns the British soldiers using exaggerated language to shock the audience, saying basically these British people feel no remorse. Third quote, people were immediately alarmed with the report of this horrid massacre. So I thought the significance of this was because it portrayed the feelings that the citizens felt surrounding the British, because they felt alarmed. It was horrid, this horrible massacre that just took place. For my second analysis, I put the women in South Carolina experience occupation. The author, Eliza Wilkinson. Type: personal memoir. Audience: private readers. Perspective: women civilian living under British occupation. Key points of this: the fear of civilians, women, and mental trauma during British occupation, misogyny, and racial tensions. So for my 3 quotes, I put, after unwelcome visitor, it is not surprising that the unprotected women cannot eat, sleep in peace. They lay in the clothes every night, alarmed by the least noise, while the days are spent in anxiety and melancholy. Significance: expresses women's experience during war, psychological trauma. Example: can't eat or sleep, reshaping everyday life. They were traumatized. Another quote, the family remained in a state of cruel suspense for many hours. Significance is showing the anxiety that spread throughout the war, the calm before the storm. They're just waiting, and then boom, they're just that anxiety feeling taking over. Third quote, they then began to plunder the house of everything they thought valuable or worth taking. Significance demonstrates British presence involved theft. This presence involves theft, destruction of civilian property, which contradicts initial claims that they were there to keep the peace. So for comparison and historical theme 1 is violence and terror. So as we could see in the both PS1 and PS2, we could see that it was violence and terror that kind of united both of them together. It was caused by the British. The Boston Massacre shows civilian suffering and depicts the British to be the main antagonist. So this is true. It depicts the British, as we could see, the tone of both of the primary sources were very unsettling. It was very accusatory. It was angry. It was just depicting, it was using very colorful language to depict the British as just in a very negative light because of the things that they were going through and the things they were seeing. So for theme 2, the experience of civilians. Civilians portrayed as martyrs dying with honor and courage. Wilson Manifesto reveals the fears and misogyny women face. So as we could see through both these primary source analyses, they're very much the same thing, that they're trying to get the same point across. Just experiencing, what it was like seeing those men get killed, and also what it's like to be a woman in this, sort of time period. So race and gender, the article about Boston doesn't touch on race and gender, more focuses on the evil the British does. But on the other hand, the manifesto expresses concerns about racial tensions and vulnerability due to gender, just naming that the British troops had black men in there, as well as how women were treated during those times. So it was just saying, with the Negroes and with things like that. So it was just very, racially driven, as well as sex, like your gender. And the first one was just more like, okay, we want to, the British are horrible. So for the overall comparison, these primary sources share the theme of being antagonized by the British, however, having different experiences based on gender or where they were specifically at during that time period. So the common ground of it is hating the British, hating what they're doing, did not like them, and just abuse of power. But it's also very different based on your gender or where you are at in that, that sort of time period, like, city-wise, where you're located. So it was very different, but overall, what could tie all these together was their hate for the British. It's like, if they didn't have one thing in common, they had hating the British in common. So that's what I kind of took from these. So yeah, if they're both saying they don't like the British that much, then maybe, they don't like the British. So here is my annotated bibliography. We could just take a moment to look at this. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.